But let's come to that next event and what happens.
Hell in a Cell. So can you tell me the rules of the Hell in a Cell? What are the rules of a Hell in a Cell match, Ben?
The Hell in a Cell rules are very simple, which is that there are no rules, Ash. And it's basically a fight to the
So then
end.
explain to me, how does a match get stopped because one guy is beating up the other guy so much that they have to stop the damn match?
And especially
So there
given
are
that
rules.
this is the same match whereby we saw Mick Foley thrown off the cage and
And
through the
he
cage.
comes.
Yeah, I mean, I think that just killed. The problem was like it's when you book yourself into a corner, isn't it? Because
Yeah,
when you create a character like the Fiend who is absolutely unstoppable and who
yeah,
doesn't feel pain, if you're going to beat him at some point, how do you do that? So there's
yeah,
always a question about how unstoppable you should ever make a monster in wrestling, because at some point they've got to be stopped.
yeah. You beat him in 3 minutes 6 months later, but we'll come to that.
Yeah, we will.
We'll come to
Uh,
that.
well, look, I mean, actually, let's just jump straight to it, because he does have a feud with Daniel Bryan, so that's a nice kind of nod back to the past. They have a strap match at Royal Rumble 2020,
Yeah.
and that's great. But let's get straight to it. We've recently seen Goldberg retire, but he is still going strong at Super Showdown 2020, which is the next Saudi show. And yeah, I mean, it's a match that on paper looks fascinating. Certainly on a if you're imagining Vince McMahon looking at a marquee, Goldberg and the Fiend looks incredible as a match. It looks
On a
exciting,
poster.
much like Goldberg and the Undertaker looked incredible on a match. But as we should have learnt from that match, the reality does
Yes.
not always match the poster.
Reality and gravity.
Yep. So
Gravity didn't help.
So at Super Showdown 2020, do we see an ultra competitive match between one of the biggest upcoming stars in wrestling and now a two-time champion versus Goldberg, who's in his early 50s?
That was a joke. That was an absolute. So remember when we were preparing for this, I said, there's going to be times in this podcast I want your hand close to the bleep button. This is that moment.
Go on, Jeff.
No, this was absolute S word. You know, how do you just talk about burying the talent, destroying a character? This is how you do it. This is textbook. If it was taught in universities, this is how you do it. What an absolute crap. I don't know, what were your feelings? Where were you? I wasn't really invested in the product, so I really didn't give a crap. I was like, okay, let them do whatever. I don't know where were you? What was
Well,
your thoughts? Were you watching live?
I think I was one eye on the world, thinking the world's getting very strange very fast, and kind of thinking things are getting odd. So kind of one eye on current affairs at the time and everything that was happening, and just thinking, what's this going to mean for the UK? But yeah, I remember just watching that and being like, one of those times, like many times in wrestling, where you watch it and go, "That's it, I'm done with wrestling. I'm never watching this
Yeah.
product again." And then you find
Yeah,
yourself back
that's
there,
it. Break my TV.
boycott whatever, and then the next day you're back. Yeah, I mean, I hated it. But yeah, also, it's WrestleMania season, and this is what happens, and it's what will always happen, because you always need marquee names in the big matches. I got it.
But funny thing is, right? They did it because they were planning to do Roman Goldberg at WrestleMania. But that match didn't happen because Roman, I think got COVID or he had to be home or something like that. So it blew up in their face. So you're like, what's the point? And
And
then
what's
Goldberg gets, does the job for Braun Strowman.
Yeah, and that's what's
Uh,
ironic, because imagine if they'd obviously known, if anyone had known what would happen in that month. Let's be honest, it's one of the many crazy things from March 2020. But imagine if Braun Strowman had been the one to topple the Fiend, like how
that would
full
have made
circle
sense
that
to
would have
me.
been. And it also, I think you legitimately could have had Braun Strowman. No one else has been able to get anywhere near this man, who hasn't, from who've we had? We've had Seth Rollins, We've had Finn Balor. We've had Daniel Bryan. Yeah, like not all of those are smaller guys. You then put him up against this absolute superhero colossus of a man. If anyone can beat the Fiend, it feels like it should be Braun Strowman, and that could have supercharged him in a way that beating Goldberg didn't, because they could have done all the things that they did to hide, during that time, all the things they did with the match that we had at WrestleMania 36. I mean, the only saving grace that comes out of this situation is that we, as viewers, got the Firefly Funhouse match with John Cena, which that and the AJ Styles match were the two very best things to come out of WrestleMania 36. Pretty unwatchable show at a time when, we all needed escapism more than anything, and they did what they could. But that Firefly Funhouse match was just insane, wasn't it, with John Cena?
That was the weirdest WrestleMania. So there was talks, are they going to do it? Are they not going to do it? They still did it over 2 nights. I think it probably had, did it have Edge and Randy Orton, that
for about an hour,
45-minute stinker as well? Well, the world's longest match going on. So that WrestleMania was quite missable, but this I still don't call the Firefly Funhouse match a match. I call it as a segment.
Cinema, yeah.
To me, it's not a match.
Yeah.
It caught my attention, and it was so brilliantly done. All these things and the references. Guaranteed, it was all planned out by Bray and in his head. And it was so brilliant. They had to book it. They had to go along with it. They're like, we're in a lockdown. What else could we do? Vince like, do it. Even Vince played the devil in that. He didn't mind, and
you see John Cena with the NWA, with the, bad guy John Cena for the first time we've ever seen that.
That, and even him admitting and saying this match should accomplish what it should have accomplished 6 years ago to beat the golden child, or the most beloved superstar, the most protected superstar of all time, rewrite history the right way or whatever, So I can't believe it, but, credit to Cena for doing that and things. But again, it's the brilliance of Bray Wyatt, So that caught my attention, that whole thing. It was just a roller coaster ride. I think that match was how many things were happening in that match.
Yeah.
And
it's wonderful.
The bit he did behind the cage, with when he's training, that was like to the Hogan or whatever. So it's like it was all amazing.
That was wonderful escapism, and I think just again a sign of his brilliant creative mind. And as we kind of go through the summer months of 2020, and we're morphing from the world of the kind of empty performance center into the performance center, having a few wrestlers at ringside to create some kind of level of excitement, I guess, or atmosphere, for lack of a better term. And then we move into the Thunderdome. He's there. And he begins his feud with Braun Strowman. So, of course, Braun Strowman now is the Universal Champion. The student has become the man. And he does win the Universal title from Braun at SummerSlam 2020. So Bray Wyatt has become a 3-time world champion in the WWE. Easy to forget that, because I think it's a week later, or maybe even 6 days later. So Roman Reigns returns at the end of SummerSlam 2020, and a week later at Payback, he beats Bray Wyatt and Braun Strowman in a triple threat to become world champion. A title change that doesn't seem that significant at the time, but actually that is the title change that begins Roman Reigns' 1,316 days as champion. Incredible.
That was unreal. I remember that SummerSlam, him beating Braun Strowman, and then Roman just showing up, wrecking everything, pretty much acting like a heel. We didn't know if he was a heel, he was a face, but he acted like a pretty much of an a-hole when he was. And he was beating up everybody, basically. And then, Fiend losing the title a week or two later. Weird. But I guess they had another heel on their hand, and now Roman was going to be. And Roman did great things with that title, the whole bloodline thing, probably one of the best storylines in WWE in the last 20 years, maybe perhaps for longer. So, but yeah, once again, poor Bray jobbing out.
Crazy to think when you think about it that he loses that title in 2020, and by 2024, when Roman loses the title, Bray's no longer with us. It's incredible.
Exactly.
We then enter this kind of chapter, and we're moving towards kind of the end of his time in WWE now. We enter this chapter where Alexa Bliss joins Bray Wyatt as the kind of twisted ally, and just like really, they were just a great combo. I loved the energy between Alexa Bliss and Braun Strowman. And then we get to this match at TLC 2020. And I remember watching this one. It was a few days before Christmas, and I remember thought, I'll just sit down to watch a little bit of wrestling, see what WWE's got in store for me just for the holiday season. And we're just going to burn a man alive in the middle of a ring. Wonderful.
Did that event also had that zombie match with The Miz and remember?
That was wrestle crap. Yeah,
we were doing some crazy crap at that time. I remember that zombie
2020.
match. So yeah, this crispy.
2020
Krispy Kreme match.
We might have to do some deep dives into 2020 WWE at some point if we can bear it. Maybe we'll wait.
It won't take very long.
No,
I don't think it will take very long to go through 2020.
No, man.
2020 versus 1995. What's the worst?
Yeah, man. I don't think I could put myself through it yet. But he returns at WrestleMania 37, and for the match against Randy Orton. I believe that's the one where Alexa Bliss comes out on top of the box, isn't it?
Yeah. Another moment you need to put your hand on the bleep button watching this match. What was that all about?
Where all the black goo and stuff coming out of a mouth. Was it out of a mouth?
The booking. Just Bray should have beaten Orton. Why the hell did Alexa turn on him and all the black thing coming out? And didn't make sense. I'm sorry.
It was a cool spot. I remember all the holy S chants. Like, it was a cool moment. But yeah, again, illogical.